Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Thursday, the 27th of March. Starting off with the FTSE, which has managed to bounce at 86.20, which is one of our favourite areas. That's that support line there from the beginning of February. Above that, still got a chance of breaking the right shoulder there of that head and shoulders formation around 87.50 and then heading up to the highs. Obviously, that doesn't look very likely at the moment, given that the RSI has fallen below the neutral 50 level, but support, if we do break down below 86.20, support towards 84.80, and that's the worst that we're thinking of at the moment. Moving on to the DAX, where one would assume tariff scares will be more dangerous to this market, and you can see that we've fallen out of that rising trend channel from back in November. We were expecting or factoring in the possibility of a test of the 50-day line, 22,200 and post-February support at that level. So let's see if we can hold that level or close back above the gap later this week or early next week at 22,800. Moving on to the Dow, and here the situation also slightly fraught, but we're still above the top of the latest gap there at 42,100 and above the 200-day line. The only thing missing, which is still missing, is the failure RSI 50, and so below that, still a chance of filling the gap and testing the 200-day line over the next couple of sessions. On to Bitcoin, which has been defying the bears in the sense that we've been above the 200-day moving average, 85,500. Above that, looking for the 50-day moving average at basically 90,000. RSI bouncing above neutral 50, so that does suggest we've got a chance of retesting the March support, 94,500, or 95,000 in fact, by the end of next week or in the next couple of weeks. On the downside, worst case is a break of the 200-day line and a test of the support of the floor of that rising trend channel from this time last year, 81,600. But with the RSI above neutral 50 and being above the 200-day line, we are looking north rather than south at the moment. On to gold, which continues to go to greater highs and greater strengths. Here you can see the rising trend channel is pointing to 3,200 by the end of next month. We've very happily found support at 3,000 and above in the recent past. That's also the floor of the rising trend channel from November, the beginning of December. Worst case at the moment is we've got to test the old 2980 resistance from February before heading up to 3,200, but still looking pretty strong there. Moving on to the stocks, and starting off with one where there's a bit of a lap of honour due, I suppose. The only thing missing with Capai is the way that we were looking for that line to be hit at 0.19, and we narrowly missed it today. The high of the day, 18.5, but obviously nobody's perfect. But still, while we're above the initial high there at 0.16, still looking for 0.19 on Capai. Next up is something not quite so dramatic, but we've got Chariot oil and gas here. Here we've got a broadening triangle base, and the share's trying to consolidate above the 50-day line at 1.5 pence above that. We're looking for as much as 2.5 pence by the end of next month. It seems a little bit optimistic, but at least while we hold above that 50-day line, there's a chance of a move to the top of that triangle. Next up, EnergyPathways, where I see everyone and their mother is coming up with charting views on this, which is interesting. We've had a bear trap rebound from below the 200-day moving average, which is normally the main support point for a stock or a market after a retracement. The problem here, though, is that we've got a line of resistance there from back in the end of October and the 50-day line. So if you're a bull, you'll say that above the 200-day line at 5.25, we're looking for 6.6 pence. But we really need to break that in order to get a near-term target of 8 pence. Overall, we're still in a rising trend channel heading for 13 pence, so that may cheer up some people. But we really want to stay on the right side of that 200-day line, around 5.25 pence, whatever happens. Moving along to a stock which was rising yesterday ahead of today's news, which is obviously always interesting. Here we've got Katoro, and I suppose the shares are in a falling Trend channel, the top of the channel there at 007, so above the 50-day line, which we've just gapped up through at 4.5, looking for 007 by the end of next month or even sooner. The reason I covered the stock yesterday, apart from being clairvoyant on today's news, was that there was bullish divergence in the RSI window. On to Metals One, which has rejigged its share price, but the pattern's still looking very strong here. The initial target there, around 7.25. Above that, we were looking for 14.5 pence, which from memory was probably around 1.5 pence. Obviously, it probably is 1.5 pence in terms of the consolidation of the shares, and hopefully we'll get to that 14 to 15 pence level over the next week or so. This stage only only staying below 10 pence, really delaying the upside scenario, and there's a hint there we're going into a golden cross as well, which is very encouraging. Onto a stock which I think I can take the full credit for, because I think luckily nobody else talked about it, so they can't do that, but shares of Mobile Stream's massive rally that we had from the autumn, fresh leg up now with the latest news, and the top of the channel there, 0.77, and we're looking for that while we're above at least the 0.55 area, which is within the lower part of today's range, so hopefully 0.77 by the end of next month or even sooner. On to Microlise, which had an update today, and here we've gapped through the rising 50-day line, which is normally a good sign. We also had a support at the top of the old gap there from January. We're looking for £1.35 by the end of next month. If we really motor, maybe going to May otherwise, but basically the top of the range over the near term while we're above recent support around the 103 level. Moving on to Naked Wines, and here really volatile situation. Moving around like the grand old Duke of York, and here you can see the rising trend channel there, top of the channel there at 88 pence, and we're looking for that while we're above the floor of the latest gap at 64 pence. Ideally, we have an end of day close through last month's high today or on a weekly close basis. On to Premier African, where I don't think there's been a placing for at least 10 minutes, but what's interesting here is that shares are rising, and there hasn't been any announcement of a fundraise, maybe looking to raise money a little bit higher towards 0.019. The technical target here without any placings would be up to 0.027, the top of that triangle from last month. But it has to be said, if this wasn't Premier African, one would actually consider this as being a strong technical situation and one worth following. So as long as we're above the 0.14 level, feeling quite chirpy about that one. On to SRT, which also had a very strong update today. Here you can see we've got a rising trend channel, and if I adjust it a bit, you'll see that the top of the channel is heading towards the mid-70s area, and hopefully we could get that by the end of next month, if I can draw it properly. The sizzle at the moment, apart from today's update, is the way that we are crossing a rising 50-day moving average at 50, basically at 50 pence above that, looking for 70 plus by the end of next month. The 200-day line also rising, so that's supporting the situation very well, as is the extended bounce off RSI 50 before today's rally. Finishing off with the UOG, where somebody said on X that the seller's out. They said that yesterday, and so far, unbelievably, that seems to be right, or at least there's some buyers turning up. We've gapped through the 50-day line, which is always a nice thing to do. Initial target here was 0.1 pence, the top of that falling trend channel from December. Next level up to 0.14, even 0.15 by the end of next month, which would be quite an achievement. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.